Thank you for a wonderful welcome and the warm opportunity. So today I'm going to be speaking about extraordinary art of listening, art of unsaid and unheard. The things that people don't say, but you want to hear them deeply. The things that you don't say, but you want to be heard very, very deeply. So with that, my first question to you, have you seen a small baby? Like a newborn, like a 6 months old, like a 1 year old. Have you seen a small baby? I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have. Now, do you know why does the baby doesn't speak in the first initial few years of his or her life? You know the answer? The answer is the silence is given to the baby because the baby is in intensive period of learning and absorbing, an intensive period of listening in those moments. And that is the power of listening. Now, what is the baby listening during those times? Baby is not just listening the words. Baby is listening about the language of love, the language of interactions between people, the language of relationships, the language of culture, the language of music, the language of body, the movements, the nature, the animals, the plant, the environment. You know the listening? The listening is unlimited in nature. Unlimited, absolutely unlimited. It's a wide landscape of learning in that moment. And you know what? It's also very unbiased and very non-judgmental. Very non-judgmental. Now, cut to adult life, cut to the life that we all are living right now, and just imagine what kind of listening are we doing? Is it a wide array of listening, or is it just interpersonal and money-making listening is what we're doing? But if you really, really want to be successful, the first things that we have to cover up is understand how do we want to go further as far as listening is concerned. So I would request and sincerely request you to listen to the few statements or the situations that I'm going to throw at you. Suppose you're in a conference room, you've made a brilliant presentation for yourself and you're presenting it to somebody. And in that moment of presentation, you suddenly landed up realizing that there is this gentleman who got up and said, hey, can you repeat that? How does that feel? You want to talk to your spouse is working on a laptop, is horribly busy in that moment. You just want a few moments of conversation to have. And the spouse, while working on the laptop, says, hey, you know what? I'm listening to you, bring it on. Can you be quick? How does that make you feel? Just imagine a small baby walking up to you with all the excitement, with a beautiful drawing in his or her hand, and says, Dad, I have made a beautiful drawing. How do you feel about it? Oh, very good, just keep doing. How does that make the child feel, right? You're in a circle of friends and a group of huge friends. You want to say something, you're just waiting for your turn to come, but you never get that chance. How does it feel? Just imagine your sales team or your marketing teams are coming to you wanting to present an idea to you or some insight that they've seen over a period of time and they're not able to speak. Because what do you say? I know. That is the listening piece that I want to bring to you to it. And do you resonate with these statements? I'm sure you do, because majority people tell me that that's how they feel about being heard today. Now, let me bring to you another side of life. This is external, this is outside. Come back to the internal self, internal, right here, right inside. Do you really listen to yourself? And even if you want to listen to yourself, have you made time to listen to yourself? Let me ask you certain very difficult questions. What do you like about yourself? What do you know about your own home? What do you like about the relationships that you have? What do you know about your own evolution per se? What do you know about the evolution of others around you? Are you able to see the journey you're undertaking? Just imagine same things progressing with respect to your relationships, with respect to your career, with respect to everything under the sun. How does it feel? This is an era of ears wide shut. Absolutely ears wide shut, where we have just shut our ears to listening selectively, to responding to people and not really listening per se. And I call that listening deficiency. Now, I'm going to talk to you about certain statements and just see what emotion does it create in you. And this is my last piece on harping on the point again. Hey man, are you even listening to me? बहुत बोलते हो यार, तुम जल्दी बात खत्म करो ना, मेरे को जाना है कहीं पर. Statements like, मैं तुमसे कुछ कहना चाहती हूँ, कब मिल सकती हूँ, and we keep pushing out certain people, certain elements. Are you a receiver? Are you a giver in these statements? Think about it. And trust me, I don't need to give you any WHO data on this. All of us face this on a day-to-day basis. So I'm not validating this with any data because I am a researcher and I keep meeting a lot of people to validate these statements. Now, cut to a moment where you had a deep conversation with somebody and you felt absolutely connected, absolutely heard, absolutely listened, absolutely absorbed. What was that moment for you? That moment, I'm going to share from my personal life. I got to meet a CEO in a very giant firm. His name is Mr. Jay Shankar Krishnan, and he's the VP for High Growth Market in Danaher. He manages almost around more than 10,000 people, and he works for LATAM as well as Asia Pacific markets and a lot of other markets for that matter. And you know, I met him at a time where I was really low in my career, when I wanted to quit my job. But I didn't know how to survive in Bombay, didn't want to take money from my parents, and I didn't know what to do about my life. That was a low moment in my career. And I met him for guidance. And the first question he asked me is, what do you have in yourself to offer the world? I was blank. I drew an absolute blank. I didn't know what to say. And in that moment, he said, let me tell you my share of story. If I was not the CEO, I would become a writer, an author, and my style of writing would be haikus. So he said, what have you fed your alternate personality with? That was his first question. Then he said, possibly if I was also not a writer, I could become a coach, whether a spiritual coach, whether a business coach. I would become somebody else than what I'm not. And I'm very clear about it. I know exactly what I want to do. And that was very interesting for me. In that moment, he got me thinking, what do people think about you? How do people even receive you for that matter? To which my answer was, I will absolutely happily become a talkative researcher. I would become a person who would love listening to journeys of people because that's what I've done in my career. But what do I do with those journeys will come later in life in terms of, you know, how would you like to execute? Who can you help with those stories per se? And therefore, I launched a story platform. I launched a discovery platform for people to know how can they identify their customer, how can they identify their own selves. And it was a huge branding platform that was launched. Now, just a moment of pure conversation with the CEO helped me with all these buckets. And from my learning, my fellow passengers here, we are all sailing in the same boat of life. I'm going to share with you a few amazing listening buckets that I've created. And you know, the first bucket that hits me hard here, right here, is called deaf listening. Sounds counterintuitive. How can listening be deaf? But yes, it is indeed deaf listening. Deaf listening is a listening when you have sense of clarity, not just from your ears, but from here, from your gut. When you know this is exactly what I want to do. When there is a deafening sense of clarity in your head, in your mind, in your heart, to say this is the action I'm going to take despite the voices around. Now let me share a very interesting story with you, which my mom told me at one point in time, and the idea grew in me. There was a baby ant, which was deaf and dumb, could not hear and could not speak anything. And she wanted to participate in a race in a jungle where all these ferocious animals like a lion, a tiger, just imagine any animal was standing in the race, and there was a little baby ant standing in that race to say, I want to participate. Her mother said, are you sure? Do you really want to do this? And the baby said, yes, mama, I want to do this. In her own body language, she explained her mom. Mom said, okay, if she wants to do it, the most that will happen is she'll lose. Let her go and do it. And eventually what landed up happening, very interestingly, was she kept going and going and going and going. And on the way, every animal that was passing by said, you are going to participate in this race. Are you really serious? Oh, look at her. She's so tiny. She even thought to participate in the race. Oh my God. Oh, poor thing. You will do it. Okay, it's okay. It's okay. Till whatever lap you can reach, just try it out, you know. But this ant kept walking at her own pace, slow and steady. She kept walking and she won the race. You know why? Because she was deaf and dumb to everything that the world was telling her. Now, we don't need to be literally deaf and dumb. That's not the point that I'm making. I'm saying you should have deafening clarity within yourself of what you want to do, what you want to achieve in your life. Whether it's for a hobby, whether it's for your relationships, whatever it is, just have that deafening clarity. With that, it brings me to my point number 2. which is called devil listening, which is basically feeding your alter ego. Now, all of us have alter egos. Just imagine one standing right next to me, and this is another Richa standing next to you. See, all of us have a devil within us, and it is important to do devil listening. Devil listening is all about how people are manipulative, how people are deceiving, destructive, ego-driven, can have exploitative conversations with you, and just do this devil listening. It will help you in two things. Number one, that anybody who's mean to you, you will be able to hear it in advance. Second, it can give you great business ideas. Quickly sharing my example on the business ideas, pregnancy, a lot of people end up saying that, oh, you have pain, it's okay, a lot of pregnant ladies have pain, it's absolutely okay to deal with this pain. Live, if you have back cramps, if you have leg cramps, oh, you're not able to sleep at night, there are hormonal issues, it's absolutely all right, everybody goes through that. But trust me, you don't want to be among those everybody. You want to be somebody who can actually solve the problem. And I launched a business idea on that devil listening. With that, I moved to stranger listening. Stranger listening is basically listen to strangers around you. Sometimes they have something to say which is so cathartic, which is what we imbibe in that moment, which is so beautiful for that matter, that listening to them brings just sense of sheer joy to say, hey, I'm not sailing alone in the same boat, or I found something interesting, right? And the last but not the least is borrowed listening. Borrowed listening is, you have conversations with people, right? All of us have conversations with people when they're low. So when you're doing the conversation to somebody in their low, you bring yourself to bringing the conversation when you need it. You ask for that loan of conversation. Business problem, speak to a business leader, borrow the conversation, borrow the help. Motherhood, borrow the help. Relationship issues, borrow the help. And finally, I would like to say, when you're listening, please listen big as you can. Silence yourself a bit. Keep your ego aside. Listen big to self, to your career, to your relationships, to your love life, to your intuitions, to your customers, to anything, negotiations for that matter. Because only when you listen big, you can actually think big and execute big. Thank you so much.